Are they here? Do you love it? Yes. I got the here yesterday. I did love it. It was so fun. Oh, we have to appreciate it. Yeah. Well, have to see if anyone else wants to give it a try. So we.
They've let anybody back in the snow.
Yeah, they will say encourage to say black and blue. Wanted to say because I was like, I didn't know if we were going to be. Guys, zooms on.
Okay, so I wanted to wait until we're all ready. Thank you though.
That's wonderful. I'm so sorry it happened.
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Do we need a roll call?
We do. Molly,
Hi, yes, here.
Lisa Cottabiano,
Here.
Dan Gritsko,
He's here.
Here, sorry.
Josh Peck,
Here.
Shannon Strassner.
Here. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I could just.
Can we agree to the agenda?
As written, yeah.
Okay.
You say that?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Review and approval of past meeting minutes.
We have December 4th on deck for you. Have you had a chance to take a look at it and see if it's okay?
What's the difference between what we had last week, or was the change just to mention that Elizabeth not attended the meeting?
This was last month. And I don't know. I mean, if it's okay with you, we'll go with it. If not, then you can edit it and get it back.
Well, my confusion is I thought we approved it last month because the minutes say it was approved last month.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what change happened.
Then don't worry about it.
Okay, we're good.
I don't know what to tell you.
All right, December 20, we'll just strike that from the agenda. You don't need to,
Really?
maybe not strike from the agenda.
Really? You seem like you really want to have that happen.
Well, we approved it last month though.
I think we added language about Liz Nas.
Yeah.
That was the
Well,
change.
I requested language to be put in, but I was told that what I wanted didn't happen, and I reviewed the minutes, and it's true, she didn't present herself before the commission, and I'm happy to
Put
see
it in
that.
there for you.
Well, I'm happy, I just thought I thought we dropped it last month
I thought we
because. Okay, but I am perfectly happy to see this in here, so if we want to approve this, I'm okay with that as well.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December 4th and for September 3rd.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Okay, thank you.
Is someone taking the meeting minute notes for this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right, report on relevant actions by the town council.
The main thing that we. That was said either would be. It was expressed strongly that either we get the completed. Comprehensive plan or as much of it as possible to the council. Some of it is the council wanting to have the time to finish it by the end of the year. So that was also kind of, we talked about it, that we're trying to see what we can do to get the council. I mean, I think they would like to see a completed plan, but I think we can only give them as much as we can give them. So there's a couple counselors that are on that get it to us as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, one of them approached me. And bullied me and said, how hard is it to just send me a copy of it? I think that's really disrespectful, and I hope that town council members would at least have the decorum not to do that kind of thing. And I was approached outside of anything, that had to do with it. I understand the frustrations, but we have to be able to talk to each other. This is ridiculous. I mean, I kind of got a little irritated tonight because your passive aggressive email about how this is what we're gonna do. And Lisa saying that we all were so excited about it. Have you all made a decision about this? Or is this something that we can talk about, all of us together?
Well, I don't know what was passive aggressive about Dan's email. He was stating that the town council wanted to see something from us, which I think is fair, and that's what he's presenting on tonight. Town council wants, it's been a year and a half at least since we started working on it, so we want to see something. And we have a really good working document that we can present to them so that they can kind of be on the same page with us.
Well, the town council member had said that it wasn't to review it, it was to start editing.
Well,
Because they wanted to make sure that it was something that they could get on top of. I don't know that they're taking it seriously or not, I guess the framework is.
Just thank you, by the way, for bringing that up. You might say I think the fairest way to say it is there's a couple different councils that have different ideas. They end up at the same place, they want it as soon as possible.
Well, I wish they would come in here and talk to us, I mean, we're adults.
Right.
This is the thing, I just saw an interview the other day and somebody was talking about research that they had done about getting things done and working as a team. And it had to do with getting to know one another and not doing all this crap of, like talking about it and then making a decision about it without the full commission involved. It's just how I feel about it. Maybe you all don't feel the same way. But I think we could work better
I
together.
did think at some point we were supposed to have a joint meeting with the town council. To like a working session about the comp plan. Did that fall into the agenda at some point?
I think so, yeah. Can't remember the details, but I do remember that you bring it up.
Yeah.
So I know we're all really kind of inundated and it's hard for us. We're volunteers, we're doing the best we can. But if we can't work together, it's just ridiculous. And I really felt like we had decided that town council wanted a copy of the comp plan before it was done, that we weren't gonna do that because we might make changes that would then be in two different places. And I don't know that that is the case, but I told this town councilor to, I'm not gonna give you a copy of the document, which was true, I wasn't gonna give it to him, but I'm really surprised that the decision has been made to give it to him now. So, I don't know, I was really kind of taken aback by all of that, I guess that's what we do. But, I'm pretty riled about it.
I was a little surprised too that they were demanding a fee.
Yeah. How hard is it?
I mean, I would
Alex,
like to,
send me
I
a
would like to
copy.
finish it before we send it on.
Well, I think, I mean, well, we had talked about, and Lincoln even said, like, we need to make sure, remember when he gave us that calendar initially, he said, we
Yeah.
really need to make sure we have town council involved in it as we go along, so that there's no major rewrites that have to happen down the road. And we really haven't been giving them, I mean, granted, they're on our email, so they can see all the text documents that Lincoln's asked us to review and
And
work
has
on, so there's
Lincoln
nothing
gone
that's top
to-
secret.
Hasn't Lincoln gone to town council?
Yeah,
and
so I think
given
he's gone
updates?
there and talked to them, so that's been happening,
No, I got the feeling they were ready to start changing it.
So what would that look like? I mean, and they wouldn't, I don't think that they wouldn't be making their own document, because that'd be kind of pointless, I assume they
It would
wanna
be
have Lincoln.
pointless. I
Well,
agree with you, I just think that the point is that we have not finished it. And if town council has decided that that's what they're gonna have us do, I don't think that's really kind of what we're here to do. I think we're here to work together and give them a recommendation. And I don't feel like we're ready to do that, and that's why I felt like it was being pushed to do that
what,
tonight.
so anyways, I think that's good that you're sharing that, I think the council, again, I think there's. You might say, I think there's concurring parties who come at it from different perspectives, but
Sure.
they,
Is there a way to get everybody together and work
Well-
together?
well, no, what I mean is, what I'm referring to is. For different reasons, people want it as soon as possible, that's kind of what I'm trying to say, and there's a feeling compelled to have it done. By the end of the year, Mr. Bowling gave us. I don't know if it's, Mr. Mayor, you have to clarify if you would say that was definitive advice, but to say, there definitely is a goal to have it try to be done by the end of the year. Is that accurate to say that or not?
There's no rule that says it has to be done by stroke of midnight on December 31st. If you don't vote to approve it until after the first of the year, it's no big deal. Albemarle County has been working on theirs since 2022, and they are still having public hearings on different parts of the plan. So.
Mr. Mayor, one other question.
Can I speak to you?
Yeah, sure, yeah, I was gonna say, if you tell them your sense of the council, that's all I was gonna say.
I can understand what you're saying.
Your point, why are you pointing?
Cause he agrees with you.
Josh and I were on the planning commission at the same time. We did the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Took us, what, 2 years?
Yeah, it took us 2 years to do it.
Study.
And then we got thrown into the southwest area, small area plan that
Yeah.
we did too. Worked on that for a couple of years. And, you know, one of our citizens who was very vocal. We presented that at a public hearing and they said, that's the worst document I've ever seen. Well, you know, okay, that's your opinion. It would be nice to get it finished by the end of the year. But that's not how it works. You guys do your best. You put together something, you present it to the council looks through it. They may question, they may say, well, what about this, what about that? Then you come, then if you want to revise it, you revise it based on what their input. And you send it back, we have a public hearing. And then we vote on it. This thing about having to get it done by the end of the year is not right. You don't have to get it done by the end of the year. You're not, you know, that's not a requirement. Requirement is you come out with the best document you can make. And if it takes longer than having it ready at the end of the year, it does. We've got 2 people on council that are 2 people that voted against paying Lincoln a little extra to keep working on this thing.
That makes it hard to keep them.
When Josh and I were on it, we paid Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission $1,000 just to lump a whole bunch of stuff together, and they said, here it is, and we went through it, looked at it, and we told council, here it is, and it's great. Yeah. They looked at it, had a public hearing approved. I want you all to take your time, do the best that you can, and when you have something ready to present, you present it. And if a couple of people on council can't accept that, then we don't want some swoop shot. The other thing is they don't understand too, it's not a set in stone. This is what we'd like to do. If you go back and look at some of the comp plans from the seventies and eighties, they're talking about population of Scottsville being 1,900 or 2,000 by 1999. And you know,
The road leading from James River to the
Yeah.
tire factory.
one comp plan has, you know, Route 6 coming down and the big intersection down here, and where the levee is, having a road come in that way so it can bypass, you know.
Right. Well, I think we have a huge, unique opportunity to get him here. Who brings a lot of expertise, and it's what his goal is. So
Exactly, he's
also
on the
motivated.
ball of his contract,
I think
on
it's-
beyond.
Yeah, we're not copying and pasting anymore, and this is a kind of a momentous thing.
So,
So I agree.
yeah, and I appreciate you not sending anybody a half-finished version. You all do your, for me, it's
Thank
you all
you.
doing your work the best you can. When you get something ready to present, you present it. Yes, it'd be nice to have a public hearing in November or have it in November to have a public hearing in December. But if it doesn't get done until January, the world's not coming to an end.
That being said, I think Lincoln is mostly done, so hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah, I know, yeah, and if anybody, how many, you know, Lincoln's presentations? Couple of the council people and myself showed up for those, why didn't the whole council show up, you know,
Yeah.
why didn't they go back, they can look at it in the archives? They can see what you're doing, if they have suggestions, don't wait until you present them something, just say, you know, instead of demanding that it be done, just say. You know, I read that part and does it need to be that way? Let y'all talk about it. But this is your job and don't take a bunch of pressure from council people. That is unnecessary. You do your job the best your ability, and when you have a product ready to present, you present it. And that's just my feeling.
Mr. Mayor, just to follow up, and I want to say this to the council, I mean, the commission. Part of what I was trying to do is convey what I think I was accurately conveying what I was told, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I mean, in other words, part of my job is to convey the message that has been, like, my job is to give you what I hear.
Well, it felt a little bit like you were giving a direct command as to what was going to happen. And I kind of felt like being the liaison, that wasn't your place to do.
Yeah,
It is your place to report it to us during your portion of the planning commission meeting, but I felt like. I mean, I'm glad you guys are excited, that's really great, you guys are raring to go, but please check with me if you're gonna make global statements about what's gonna happen. Because we're all commissioned together making decisions, and I'm not saying I wouldn't be excited. It's just, give me the chance to be excited about this, okay?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even seen the final document
Yeah.
yet, so it
No,
would be nice.
no,
to
I
read
agree.
what goes on, but like.
All I'm trying to say to you is. In my own personal opinion, I don't mind if it takes 6 more months, I am not in any rush to finish this, on my own personal opinion, but in terms of. Conveying what people think, I'm simply trying to convey.
He's just the messenger for these.
I do appreciate it.
Well, I think that there's a time and a place for that kind of stuff, and we do have a whole section on the agenda for you to tell us about that, and I think we've had a good conversation. I think you hear me, I hear you, I just felt like it was a little bit much, so my opinion, I'm just putting it out there.
So Josh can probably answer any questions about the last time we did this thing, but you know. You want to do it right and you don't want to rush through it, and if it takes another 2-3 months to get it completed, so be it.
And it's a guide, it isn't something that, you know, is.
5 years from now, say, oh, well, that didn't work out, so let's try something else.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a concern, however. For a counselor to so brazenly act that way
Yeah.
to a planning commission member, is there any sort of recourse or?
Well, here's what happened to me, and I'm not gonna name any names, but it involved, it involved issuing of a check to a charitable organization that was approved by council. And then Javier and I were both accused of wrongdoing, both in email and in public. And I let the council person know that if it ever happened again, we would see each other in court.
Okay.
So,
But still, we're talking about like. You're talking about my situation, so
well, still, you,
I don't have any actionable items.
if somebody approaches you with a question like that, you tell them, come to the next planning commission meeting and voice your concerns.
Fine, just fine,
Yeah.
like,
I feel like that's a form of intimidation towards a public official, if we're being
Well, it
honest.
is.
yeah, it is.
You know, we might be appointed public officials, but public officials nonetheless.
Yeah.
So, you know, for our safety, thank you for bringing that up.
I don't wanna have to have a.
Maybe we can see what avenues.
It got bad in Chesterfield County when I lived there, and I just attended meetings, I wasn't on any commissions or anything. But they had to have police officers in the rooms.
That's ridiculous,
It
we should
is.
never go there, we should never go there, and it should not be this.
And I saw him take a man out one night because he would not shut up. So,
Right,
just,
Well-
I appreciate what you're doing, and if this happens again, let me know,
I'll let you know.
okay? Any
Thank
questions?
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And the reason I'm here tonight is just to. If Josh, you know, if you ask a question of Josh and maybe, and he doesn't remember, maybe I can remember, or maybe we could back each other up on something that happened 5 years ago. Yeah,
So what is the expectation? We'll finish the document, we send it to town council, they edit it, send it back, we.
Don't we have to have a
So-
meeting?
No. Yeah, so it's our document to edit and do whatever we want with, however, we talked about the idea to include town council so that we don't get to the end and we have this document that there's big issues with, let's try to communicate along the way to expedite things and make sure that everyone's
Right.
on the same page. So they have been getting copies of.
No, I know, I wanna know like, when we finish the document, what's.
We have a public hearing,
We have a public hearing,
we have a public hearing.
okay, before
To
they
make
see it.
I'll let you speak to that.
So I mean, the easiest way is like, what does the Code of Virginia say?
Yeah.
So what you would do is you would you've been given direction to work on a comprehensive plan as planning commission as appointees. You'll complete your draft of the comprehensive plan. You'll place that in public, so it'll be on our website, anybody can look at it.
Okay,
At the same time, you'll, as a planning commission, call a public hearing
Mhm.
on that, and then preceding the public hearing, you could have the option of course, working on it more. Or saying, I want to recommend this out as a motion to the town council.
okay,
Town council would receive it, they have to act on it in 150 days.
okay,
And they could say yes, no, send it back. And then at that point, it just becomes illegal, 60 days back and forth between both bodies, but.
and then what would be, if they sent it back? Then we would make
They would,
edits,
they would send it back with a letter specifying the reason for it.
okay,
And then you would recommend back out the comp plan again.
and then we'd have to do the public hearing again and then send it back, okay.
So
Alright, I just wanted to know what the actual,
Virginia law, I
Thank you.
believe, it kind of keeps changing, but you would only have to have one public hearing as a planning commission.
oh, okay, so
But that might change in 6 months, because it's weirdly contentious.
Shannon, I think
Thanks.
the attention, at least my understanding with some of the counselors would be. Obviously goes back to some of the issues we've had in the town about growth, I think some people might think of there anything hidden in the document or something, which there's not, but. The thought of making sure that we're as clear as we can be on what we've done and all
With
the
our
research.
specifics, any questions we can answer.
I would say, again, I'm giving you my thought of how I understand, you have to talk to the council.
I think there is nothing wrong with giving them information, I get that, I'm just, right now, I think we need to fly right on this, because. This is kind of going underwater a little bit. With, well, and yes. I was gonna say something, then to say, yes.
Well, we'll talk about this further when we get to, the old business portion.
Which is there anything
Where we are.
that we should know about?
I don't know that, I mean, that in terms of. Planning commission, I mean, we. As a council, we agreed to abstain these, which was good. I mean, I think everything else is news.
What was that?
They were here and. We had,
Or the specifics.
I don't remember the number, what was the number?
400.
300?
400.
400, that's right. So there was a debate about should it be more or less or whatever, and
Right.
that was a compromise with them. And I thought it was a good decision, so.
Then, not to be the proverbial dead horse, but. I'm an appointee also, so I have to always consider a variety of either planning commissioner or especially town council's positions, so I think. It is important for town council to communicate that some of them have a differing view on it, but. What I left with was. Maybe using tonight's meeting to get an update on where we are in the comprehensive plan and then get a little bit of direction. And see what we can do productively out of that. I think, for example, the first thing Lincoln's gonna present on is the updated matrix that we worked on with the chair and vice chair. I think it'd be good to get a gauge like that, because that is something that is easily deliverable, just thinking off the top of my head. As to give some kind of direction, and then to your point. Everything's been done in a public meeting, and then any staff, any collaboration between planning commission and staff. Has followed up with the next month being a report out and during a public
Right.
meeting about what we worked on. So it's all documented in that type of way.
Do they want to have, and do we want to have a joint session with them before this goes to public hearing?
I think tensions are high.
One,
But maybe it would be a good way to. You know.
I mean, we had
say
talked
let's all
about that
together.
before, I'm just bringing it back up.
No, it's true.
Some of it is, I would also say, is a little bit of timing because. I mean, a month from now, there's a council election, a mayor election, I mean, whether it was done soon or whether it was done later, the council. Who's in the council is going to be different, so I think there may be value even.
We
Maybe.
can't do it before that.
No, I'm not saying we can't, I mean, no, I'm just kind of saying it could, it's debatable as to which way we go.
So question, maybe instead of having a joint meeting, because I think, the timing on that and the logistics on that is a little more cumbersome. How about we have two representatives go to the next town council meeting when they're reviewing whatever we send them, and we can participate there? Is that okay? What do we think about that?
Public session or work session?
Whatever makes the most sense.
next Tuesday is the work session, and then the third Monday is the regular session.
Which will be Tuesday because of Monday's a holiday.
Yeah, we have a Columbus Day Indigenous.
So
People's Day.
it's
Mr. Mayor, just to ask you were kind of saying. Continue this process and at some point give a completed document, is that kind of what you're saying, versus a partial?
I would complete your process, have your public hearing, and then send the document to the council, look at. And then if any editing has to be done on their suggestions, it goes back to you to edit.
Okay, so that's not what we discussed as a planning commission, but whatever we decide is fine.
Okay, what did we decide?
Well, I thought we were gonna talk about this in old business.
I think
We
so.
are in old business, aren't we?
I think we're still in
Well,
the.
Yeah, we haven't moved too far yet, we're still in reports,
I got you, okay.
All right, well, how about we shelve this, and then if there's anything else from town council that you need to tell us, why don't we do that
No, I think it's good.
now? Okay.
Dan, thank you for your report. And also Shannon, thank you for the meeting minutes. All right, matters from the public,
No one online, sure.
new business?
We don't have it. Moving right along.
All right, now here we are again, comprehensive plan update. Is Lincoln online?
Yes.
Okay, so. I mean, my thinking is that. we have this document that they've literally already been shared on, they've gotten every email that we've gotten about it, they've been CC'd on it. The one thing they haven't had, perhaps, is seeing it all together in one Microsoft document.
Yeah.
Which we have that available for all of us to review online right now, we've had it available for months, but. I guess my question for Lincoln is how much of that is updated in real time, or how much of it is the old document and
Yes.
if that's being shared with them right now, or if that's something that only the planning commission.
Is the ball into?
Lincoln, once he talks, we can.
Yeah, talk to us. Hi, Lincoln.
Hi everyone. I'm here in Washington DC, actually in Arlington, in a hotel room. That's why it's a little bit dark around me in the background. But glad to join you today, and I'd also like to thank Mayor for joining the meeting. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the mayor's comments. I'll first give you an update on the document, since Lisa, you just mentioned that. Here is the document in our shared folder. Just like it's been. I put on the date 2nd December here. I'll mention why that could be a possibility later when we look at the calendar. But I'll go to the rear of the document, for instance, and I'll just share with you. Let me just go to the right place. Appendix documents. We talked about putting all the engagement summaries at the back, because they're about a page each on average. So for instance, the summary of workshop number 1, retaining character. So I was just copying all these in here, and when I copy from document to document, I have to reformat everything, so on and so forth. But this is how it is right now. So this is all the updated engagement summaries. And I've also finished the youth engagement, for instance, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. So I think my goal is to go through that document after this meeting and double check that has the latest information that we've all discussed collectively. But I'll keep going with the presentation for tonight, if that's okay.
Question though, Lincoln, about that document, who is shared on it at this moment? Or who has been shared on it all along? Is it something the town council has, or is it just us?
Well, I know it's all the planning commissioners. I know Maureen, I think Mayor, Dan, of course, since he's also active in the planning commission, and perhaps a few other town councilors. I had to go back and look in the Microsoft shared profile. But again, I'm willing to meet with anyone, anytime on Zoom, and I'm also going to be in Charlottesville on 2nd December, which is a Monday. I'd be glad to join the planning commission meeting that day too, that night. Yeah. So anyone that wants a link, if they don't have it already, glad to share that around. Yeah. And I'll go back and email everyone tonight about who has actually had the link over time.
So who are you planning to share it around to? Is this something that we're gonna open up now, or?
So the town council has asked that we give them a copy of the document that we have thus far, so they can review it and look at it, and I think that's fair because of what we've discussed all along about keeping them in the loop. As the mayor pointed
They've
out.
not kept in the loop. They've gotten so many emails and details about all that kind of stuff. There's absolutely no reason with a document that hasn't been updated fully be given to the people that want to just start tearing it apart.
So as the mayor points out, they don't have the right to tear it apart, it's not their document.
No, I get that.
It's our document.
I get that.
And also, I think there's a certain amount of benefit in all of us having the whole document together in one place and being able to see that, rather than piecing together all the
We can
different
see
emails.
that,
Right,
but you're
so,
talking and town council.
so. Point being, it might be helpful for them as well, and I don't know that there's any harm in it, I mean, does anyone see harm in it?
Any harm, but obviously this is a different agenda. So I'm not really feeling good about it.
What do you mean, a different agenda?
Well, I think that people are wanting to get a copy of the document so they can get started on what they should wait for our recommendation for. And so I'll just say, I'm not interested in that, my vote is no. So.
Well, I'll just say that I think it's good that we put all the document, information together. In the last few months, I haven't been focusing on updating the whole document. I've been focusing on generating pieces of the document. So I will focus the next few days on putting it all together and making sure it's all updated so we can all refer to that and to see how many more steps we have left. Yeah, I think that's really fair. I'll also mention, just like Mayor said, yeah, Albemarle County has taken much longer on their comp plan. We learned when talking to Fluvanna colleagues that they actually threw away their new comp plan and referred to the old document.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on and so forth. So these things take longer. I wish it would, be faster. But for instance, two events that we didn't plan on in the beginning, the youth engagement events with Boys and Girls Club and Scottsville Elementary, they were true gems. And I think the tours along the levee, the pump house, and also just seeing the kids at the dais there in the town council chambers was really amazing. Those are fresh in my mind because I've been writing the summaries today. But let me go to the presentation. Okay. Okay. So, okay, you should be able to see my PowerPoint now. Okay. So I'll just quickly give an update on the GAP grant if you'd like to submit. Javier has the latest information on that. We'll talk about this weaving summary matrix. We had, I think Lisa, Shannon and I along with Javier, had an awesome discussion about 2 weeks ago. We'll talk about those youth engagement summaries, and then we'll talk about the schedule, if that's okay. Okay, so the GAP grant text, just to recap, the town submitted for a GAP grant about 2 years ago. This is for $100,000 in technical assistance. We have to submit under the county. The next deadline for this opportunity is November 1st. I took Lawless's text and started off making some small updates, but decided we just update it all to our latest discussions. So that text is prepared, ready to submit if the town would like. This is $100,000 to do technical studies for mainly transport planning and mobility. Could be sidewalks, could be intersections, so on and so forth. So that's where I'll leave that. Javier, would you like to add anything else?
Yeah, so I think town council or plan commission recommended it. I think it's a good grant possibility for some forward thinking and planning. I think it's that first step you said to address a lot of issues I've heard before, from transportation, from being intersections, multimodal, if you go through, Lincoln wrote a really good rewrite of it, from the smallest idea of a bike rad to a little bit better to trails, to sidewalks, to intersections getting redone, or road directions getting redone. The one thing from a fiduciary stand is that I've been approaching this role very different. And some of it is I need a verbal confirmation. Well, I need a motion from council, since there is a fiduciary burden. It's required ethically, and so part of the update I gave to Lincoln is that we got pretty busy last month, which didn't really allow for that thorough discussion that I would like with the council to pass along. One thing to be said is that I did plug into the Albemarle grant system, essentially our staff, to kind of make this stuff easier. Usually it's a 6-week turnaround, which would be tight in this, but I could speak with that and then include this as a recommendation for town council. But it's a large endeavor, and if you really want me to kind of call the play, usually it takes a little bit more time, I think, with the current council to kind of get this into discussion, but I think this is something that has been considered in previous years. We brought it up as a recommendation this year. At the very least, I don't want it to be lost on residents of Scottsville that I think this is a very important application you could do in future years for future plans.
And why not now? You know, we missed out on it last year, right? So even just to try out applying for one from our end would be good. I don't know what kind of capital outlay you have to have for this grant or what would be.
There's no matching
No
necessary.
matching. Oh, okay. So if there is an approval from town council, it's just kind of a momentum thing.
Yeah.
And I really feel like maybe town council would get together for something like this.
Mhm.
And I can't speak for them because I know it's a big ask, but so is this grant, and I think it's really important to follow through with it.
Javier, we've at least talked about it once as a council. I'm not sure, has it been more than once about the gap grant?
I think we talked about it, it was either last month at work or a regular session. I just remember we just ran out of time, and then a good chunk of the council probably has talked about it before, because if Matt applied for it
Well, we
recently.
talked, I mean, that's what I'm saying, is not
Yeah.
recently we talked about it, so that's what I mean, I can't remember which meeting it was. You may remember, Mr. Mayor.
Recently, I kinda,
Yeah,
that's not the best we can do recently.
yeah,
You mentioned fiduciary implications,
Sorry,
you mentioned monetary implications.
yeah, because
What? are
if you're
those?
awarded a grant, you're taking in revenue. And then expensing out, and at that point, that I'd need some kind of confirmation that in the future we would be doing an appropriation.
Okay, gotcha.
I just, I need them to
Yeah,
lead the dance. I can't lead the tango. I shouldn't. I definitely shouldn't.
yeah. When I heard that, I was thinking cost, so that was where my mind went, so.
More appropriation.
Okay, I'll keep going if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, thanks for your work on that.
Okay, so on to the weaving summary, also called matrix. So that is on a different PowerPoint because it's such a big page. Let me just share that right now. I also emailed it to everyone on September 24th. Okay. Okay, so as I've gone through many times, we have been proceeding with this weaving approach. This is a combination of the principles that the town has really been focusing on, gleaned from the previous comp plan, the 2018 comp plan on the left. You can see principle number 1, retain small town character. Principle number 2, foster environmental stewardship. And principle number 3, enable growth. Retain small town character, we had a focus group on that, and we did a lot of talking about tweaking that. It's the titles changed slightly, but that idea has remained the same for the entire time we've been talking about it. Everyone supports small town character, I believe. Foster environmental stewardship. This one is also a crowd pleaser. Everyone supports the environment and really the town's assets, such as its parks, the Van Cleef Nature area, so on and so forth. Enable growth. This one, to my understanding, has been slightly more decisive, but from the survey that we did for the comp plan, we found out that actually vast majority of people support growth. It's just how much growth. Is it a lot of growth or it's just small growth? And then someone at one of our events actually mentioned a very good important thing is maybe growth is just filling out the storefronts and shifting vacant storefronts to active businesses, for instance. And I think the town council has talked about that a lot over the last couple of months, how to really incentivize the use of storefronts and other structures around town. Okay, so those are the principles. And then at the top, we've got the goals. Build out infrastructure. We hear that, the town has some potential development opportunities, whether it be large residential areas to the northeast of town. Bird Street is up and coming. the potential for the tire factory to reemerge in another discussion in the next couple of years. So I think the town realizes if there's going to be a little bit of growth, there's going to need to be infrastructure improvements to roads, intersections, sidewalks, so on and so forth. Goal number 2, provide housing choices. We've heard a lot of people talk about the affordability issue of housing, even from the Scottsville Elementary kids and boys and girls kids. One boys and girls attendee, he said his parents were really having trouble paying rent. And that was pretty heart-wrenching to hear from a teenager say that. So we're not talking about one type of housing. We're talking about having choices for everyone. Large houses for large families, high incomes, more modest housing for modest incomes, rental, ownership, the whole spectrum. We want everyone to find a place in Scottsville. Goal number 3, create community connections. So this is the example I always give. A lot of residents like to walk down the road and walk their dogs, for instance, and see neighbors. But when they're chit-chatting with their neighbors, they have to jump in the ditch when a car comes by because they don't have a sidewalk to stand on. Where can we create better places for neighbors to meet and talk? These happen chance meetings. Goal number 4, demonstrate value. How does Scottsville really serve the region, the rural region, but also have physical well-being? We've created this CIP, basically the document we talk about the long-term outlook of expenses for infrastructure, for instance, for the town that factors into the budget. The capital improvement program, it's called the CIP. Okay, so we've been talking about these principles and the goals, and the approach here is we look at the intersections. So I started to write down 2 bullet points per intersection, and limiting yourself to 2 bullet points is pretty difficult because we've got a lot of ideas, but this is really a prioritization exercise. So this is really where the rubber hits the road because we've been talking a lot, but putting the main ideas, the most important ideas down on paper is pretty challenging. So like I mentioned, Lisa, Shannon, and Javier and I had a discussion. So I'll just go intersection by intersection of the weaving approach, if that's okay, to explain. And you guys should have the printed off document in front of you. So we look at goal 1 and principle 1. We've been talking about right-sizing infrastructure to prioritize needs of the residents, including reducing speed on Valley Street and the noise implications of the big trucks and so on and so forth. So then the second bullet point is improve sense of arrival to town along Route 20 and Route 6. For instance, long ago, about more than 12 months ago, Maureen was talking about writing a grant of improving the entrances to towns. The town didn't get that grant, but it's still a significant item to improve that sense of arrival.
I'm sorry.
So, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Eileen.
Oh, Eileen, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So from this matrix, please do tell me tonight if I got a bullet point wrong. Maybe the sense of arrival is not really that important anymore from what you've been hearing, or you know something else. So maybe there's a more important bullet point that we could replace. So tonight, I hope is the night that we kind of lock in these bullet points. And then the idea is each intersection has about half a page that really explains it a little bit more. Why are we so concerned about the infrastructure reducing speeds and noise implications on Route 20? It goes back to the discussions of the streetscape projects and then moving in the curbs, trying to narrow the Valley Street in some places to make the cars drive a little bit slower to improve safety. There's also been discussions about crosswalks, having some signalized crosswalks, so on and so forth. Those are small things, but they fit into a bigger item of people really want to improve the traffic on Valley Street, right? Okay, I'll keep going and we can always come back. Moving to the next intersection, goal 2 of principle 1. So this is talking about housing and small town character. So here, I think it's best to talk about some of the zoning improvements we've been thinking about recommending. So about 2 months ago, we talked about safeguarding a majority of the rural area zoning district for agricultural uses while converting a portion to higher density village residential. So what we've heard from a long time ago during the small town character workshop is people like hearing those roosters. They like chickens. They like to have horses. They like this small town character. At the same time, these rural areas, this agricultural use areas with like a farmhouse on it, it is really low density. So does the town really want low density in these places that, for instance, that might be developed by a developer in the northeast part of town? Because it's a double-edged sword. If a developer decides to go in by right and they develop a lot of low-density housing, the town really loses an opportunity to do something quite special. For instance, the Southern Development Land. So again, it goes back to the discussion, what is the right density? And I think what we've been discussing is rural areas might be a little bit low density in some areas, but other places it might be just about right. Okay. So the next item, next bullet, streamline ordinances to clarify intentions of manufactured housing, mobile homes, and park model RV. So I think it was Eddie Payne that came up with this reference to park mobile RV. And this really influenced the town council's decision-making on Mr. Quick's property on the Fluvanna side for his up to 3 units of tourist lodging, right? So during this discussion, we all discovered that, by law, the manufactured housing has to be encouraged within comp plans. Mobile homes within town, within the town's ordinances are discouraged. And then there's the park model RV. So as we discussed, it seems like when the time is right, Planning Commission and Town Council needs to go back and straighten out what's the difference between manufactured housing, mobile homes, and park mobile RVs, okay, in the ordinances. So I'll keep going. Goal 3, Principle 1, create a pedestrian connection linking downtown with midtown and uptown areas. This is really the pedestrian sidewalk goal that the town has been discussing for many, many years, how to connect different parts of town with sidewalks. The next bullet point, create more spaces at events where neighbors can have impromptu meetings and conversations. Park benches, a dog park, Fridays at the 5 event, the summer concert series. So this is both infrastructure and events, that pairing, okay? Goal number 4 and principle number 1. Create an authentic theme that utilizes town assets and drives attractiveness. So I was really impressed when we had the housing discussion and the lady and her husband, they mentioned towns around the United States that have an equestrian theme. There was also mention of a town in Virginia that has a motorbikes theme. And these themes really drive a lot of people that want to live in the town, want to come to the town for tourism. And I don't personally think a motorbike theme is what's right for Scottsville. But I do think maybe equestrian theme is getting close because the town has a tremendous number of trails that could be used for horses, so on and so forth. Whatever the case is, I think there should be some sort of theming of the town to really drive. And this is one recommendation that we've been talking about. The next bullet point is increase incentives to for commercial space utilization and reduce vacant properties. Okay, this we've been talking about more recently. Like I mentioned, we want to reduce the vacancies, right? Whether it be in storefronts or other buildings around town. And we talked about whether it should be a big stick approach or an incentive approach. And I think the conclusion was incentive approach. Yeah. Okay, I'll keep going. Is this a good pace to explain everything?
You're
Okay.
good.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. And Lisa and Shannon and Javier, from our discussion, if I forget anything or you had a different point of view, just chime in too. Okay. So principle number 2, the first intersection, we're really looking at the environmental ordinances. Okay, so we're talking about this potential large development in the northeast part of town. It's in an important watershed for the town's lake. Okay, then we started thinking about the county ordinances. The county has different stream ordinances. They have slope ordinances and burning ordinances, for instance. But how are these ordinances really applicable within the town? The town has separate zoning requirements, separate from the county. Does the town need its own stream ordinances? Does it need its own erosion ordinances, so on and so forth? And then I also remember that Shannon had a great item to add. These native landscape retainment is an important consideration. Rarely does a town in Virginia have an opportunity to really safeguard pieces of nature like that together with development. So I think retaining that native landscape it could be an important ordinances that the town creates, whether it be retain those the most important heritage trees or retain certain native prairie or other aspects. Did I explain that well, Shannon? Is that
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the important other aspect is this slope protection, because if the town doesn't have proper slope protection and a developer in the northeast part of town starts doing a lot of earthworks and just totally flattens the whole site, that could really impact the water catchment of the lake and even down the creek to the river. So I think these are all things that kind of prompted Javier to talk to the county more. Yeah. So the next bullet point is strengthen ordinances requirements for developers to provide necessary site-based infrastructure. Okay. So I think the classic example is the Tiger Fuel. What I heard was some people are disappointed that Tiger Fuel did not have to put in a formal sidewalk. They put in more like a mulch trail. So I think the recommendation here would be the town might want to consider strengthening its ordinances so all new developments or significant additions or alterations need to put in a sidewalk. So the town doesn't have to pay for sidewalks itself. The new developers pay for the sidewalks. Yeah. And not only sidewalks, we're talking about storm drains, light poles, so on and so forth. Yeah. Whatever the infrastructure might be. Okay, moving on to the second intersection here. Convert underutilized structures to housing uses. Some planning commissioners are quite concerned about downtown. There's several structures I understand that could be better utilized. Could these structures be really, focused on housing rather than being vacant or storing things? Is what I'm hearing basically. Yeah. I think we all know that building that everyone talks about. Second bullet point is update ordinances to incentivize higher residential and mixed-use density, including accessory dwelling units to leverage existing infrastructure footprint. So this is basically a way of saying that, within the footprint of the town and it's
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I think you jumped around a little bit. Where are you at?
I might have printed out the wrong version.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm right here.
You read out the two he has.
Okay, so you're on principle 2, goal 2.
That's right.
Okay, we have update ordinances to incentivize accessory dwelling units is bullet point 1. And then bullet point 2 is coordinate housing density with suitable provision of infrastructure.
I think that might have been the document that Shannon, Lisa, and I discussed with Javier. Then this is the slightly updated one based on the discussion. The latest document that I emailed on the 24th of September, it has revision 1 in the date. You see that on the page?
Yeah, so Lincoln, I have the old version because we're missing the bullet points.
Okay.
This says
But-
draft.
But I'd have to say they're pretty darn close. And this one, for instance, is in a different order, but it's the whole idea is there, I think.
Yeah.
Would you want me to keep going?
Can
Is
you
that
just
okay?
read them again for us, please, since we don't have it in front of us, just read it out loud? That
Okay,
box.
so goal 2, principle 2, convert underutilized structures to housing uses. Okay. Bullet 2 is update ordinances to incentivize higher residential and mixed use density, comma, including accessory dwelling units, comma, to leverage existing infrastructure footprint. So
Okay,
an example here would be that, we've got vacant lots that have, they're served by water and sewer, but nothing's been built there. Why should the town or other entities pay for more water and sewer lots in the northeast of town when we already have lots that are serviced that? We should reuse the infrastructure we already have built.
excellent.
And then we could just zoom in a little bit on the PowerPoint or, yeah. Just for the screen.
Okay, let me keep going. Here, this one, is that okay?
You tell me how closer? No.
Yeah, maximum.
That's about the maximum I can do.
Okay,
Actually, I can keep going. Okay. So the next item is the intersection of goal 3 and principle 2. So creating community connections and in the environment. So significantly improve connections between downtown and the James River. This is a classic that the town has been thinking about for decades. I think we all know that, right? But I think it's important to still keep it on the list because it's very important. The next bullet point is expand trail network of Van Cleef Nature Area, linking downtown with northeast area of town. So from the walkability focus group, I think the best takeaway for me personally was instead of focusing on trying to put sidewalks along Hardware Street, which might not even be possible, why not really build out the trails and allow people to walk from the northeast part of town, from the Blenheim area through the nature area to the downtown. Yeah. So from my memory, that's a key takeaway. Okay. We keep going. So this is goal 4, having to do with value and fiscal responsibility, money, and principle 2, the environment. Okay, so Mr. Heisen has really focused over the last year and a half on our parks and the maintenance concerns. So, I mean, let's be honest, Scottsville has a lot of park area or nature area, right? But this is a tremendous asset. However, it takes a lot of money and person power to really keep these areas maintained. So, I think this is a key takeaway I've heard from Mr. Heisen is we need to focus on maintaining what we have. I think that's positive. The next bullet is plan for future areas to be stewarded by the town through land purchases, partnerships, or coordination of easements. So a good question that someone had was, easements are powerful. The town has several easements. We don't even know how many there are, though. We need an overall map of these easements. And how can the town really plan for further easements? For instance, in the northeast part of town, are easements their best tool to work with a developer like Southern, or is it a different type of a relationship? For instance, if Southern proffers hypothetically to provide some really great trails connecting to Van Cleef Nature Area, should the town really agree to maintain these trails, or should an HOA pay for this maintenance? Because you don't want to add a whole nother 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 miles of trails that the town has to pay for when it's really could be someone else's responsibility. Yeah. Okay. Going down to the bottom row, let me just zoom in. Okay. So this is basically build out infrastructure and enable growth. So this is increase safety measures where pedestrians and vehicles meet, including walking areas and intersections which will see higher traffic volume. So this really focuses on if Southern Development or the Tiger Fuel area or the tire factory in the next few years build out their full housing capacity, there'll be a lot more vehicles around town, and then the intersections will be strained, and there'll be more safety considerations at these intersections. We already know that the intersection of Route 20 and Route 6, for instance, has had fatality, and a VDOT study was done in 2012, I believe. However, nothing was improved about the intersection. We also understand that at Route 20 and James River Road, where the new Tiger Fuel is, and across the street from the James Exchange House, there's a slight rise in the road, and there's a lot of vehicles trying to turn into the new filling station, and that could create a safety hazard too. So I think the town, through the GAP grant or other funding from VDOT, or OPI is another VDOT agency, they could really leverage this money to create studies to really guide, a menu of options that a developer could choose to proffer. If a developer doesn't know what the town needs, then their proffers might not be spot on, and there might be more confusion in the development process. It might not be as efficient as it could be. Bullet 2 is clearly convey the town's overall infrastructure and safety priorities for potential partnerships. This was phrased this way. You could say proffers. A developer could look at the comp plan and say, oh, these are the top three infrastructure priorities for the town. These are the things I'm going to think about proffering. Of course, in Virginia, proffers cannot be mentioned by the town, but we can at least mention our priorities in the comp plan. And the developers can read on that.
Yeah, and potential partnerships could mean, nonprofits, it could mean the county. So that's a good wording, I think.
Yeah, I think like a good example is like future work on Dorier Park or something, where it's been a 3-decade collaboration in some respect.
Mhm.
You have something, a document pointing towards some future priorities. I guess would be the word.
Okay, I'll keep going if that's okay. So now looking at the intersection of goal 2 and principle 3, work with partners to provide modalities of housing affordability to attract a diverse range of residents to town. So I guess a good example would be the Scottsville school apartments. That's by Piedmont Housing Alliance. Could other developments like that be created in town? Because we have heard that A, there's a housing shortage, and B, there's other types of housing that are needed. For instance, retirement homes or assisted living. Bullet number 2, update ordinances to enable increased residential and mixed-use density for long-term housing needs. This goes along with these other housing ordinances that could be updated, whether it be rural areas, village residential, or the accessory dwelling units. That's a term used in Charlottesville. Okay, the next intersection is goal 3, principle 3. Work with partners to safeguard nature and trail links between Van Cleef Nature Preserve and housing areas, by using associated maintained easements. So this goes to this idea of potential developer in the northeast part of town. How do we work with a partner like that, or even with SCAN, for instance? They own some land up there. How can we work with different types of partners to really work on these easements and make it better for everyone? The next bullet is create small activity nodes with essential services and community spaces. We talked about, different parts of town, whether it be in the northeast part of town or the west, creating small activity nodes. We don't have to think everything has to be residential. Could have a doctor's office in the northeast part of town. Could have, some other services in the west part of town, so on and so forth, at the old tire factory. So we just don't have to think only about residential. And we want to create reasons to attract people to stay in town. If someone can walk to a doctor's office or walk to a ice cream stand, rather than think about driving to Charlottesville to go shopping, that's money that's staying in town. People that are generating activities and more buzz. Okay, the last intersection here of goal 4 and principle 3 is about creating revenue for the town. Optimize town tax base and pursue a regional economic study to demonstrate town's value as a hub serving a significantly large rural population in 3 counties. So what we've heard over the duration of working on this comp plan is when we go to talk to Albemarle County only wants to think about their residents. Fluvanna County, of course, wants to talk about their 50 or so residents of town. Buckingham County doesn't have any residents in town, but a lot of people from Buckingham County come to Scottsville for services. But overall, Scottsville doesn't really know how many residents in the rural region it serves, and it doesn't really know how to advocate for itself if it doesn't have those numbers. So one opportunity could be UVA could do an economic study to put a number on this. So next bullet point, consider implementing real estate tax. Let me move my Zoom window. Consider implementing a town real estate tax, versus reallocating other budget lines, to fund capital improvements to meet the needs of the growing community. So this was a little bit decisive when we had our discussion about 2 weeks ago. Should the comp plan recommend a town real estate tax? Should the comp plan recommend putting more money towards infrastructure and sidewalks compared to policing or facilities or park maintenance? So this is, I think, one of the most important items to maybe discuss tonight. What should be a recommendation here, if any, about a town real estate tax or about the budget? Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to also highlight when we were talking at the beginning of the meeting about the goals for the town population. And I just kind of wanted to recap that we did spend one entire meeting talking about the town population projection. And we referenced the old comp plans, whether it be 2018 or even before that. So one exercise I did, I went back through all the old census numbers and updated this in the comp plan. So right now, as of the latest census, Scottsville has 524 residents. Okay. So you can see that right there. Albemarle County's population, Fluvanna County's, Buckingham County's, and then the total Virginia population just for reference, okay? So the next page that was updated in the comp plan is the bottom here, this other table. I haven't numbered the tables yet because we do that right at the end. Okay, so this is really about the population projection that we discussed. So right now, as of the last census, we were at 524. So as the Planning Commission agreed, the goal for 2030 would be about 600. I think just to recap that discussion, once you take 524 and you add Bird Street plus a few more, you're basically at 600. Okay. What's going to happen in another decade after that? Would it be about 200 if Southern Development is up and running with their housing development, or in the northeast part of town, or the tire factory, or the full site of the Tiger Fuel is built out? This could easily be hit, but we don't want to. We want to have like a modest approach, because I think earlier in the meeting we discussed that over the last couple of decades the town is over projected, right? And then 2050 we agreed on putting down 900. So you can see the percentage increases there. Yeah. Okay, so that's just a kind of a reminder. I thought was important based on our discussion earlier tonight. Okay. So I'll go back to this matrix, if that's okay, and really grateful for anyone's feedback. Thank you so much.
You wanna start, Ollie? No, follow up on it.
Did you want me to start with what?
Well, you seemed interested in talking about that last part, so
I did. I actually felt like we had never talked as a group about the pros and cons of doing a real estate tax. I know that taxes are not anyone's favorite thing. I think that if we have pride in our town, that we can move forward with something like that, but I'm not seeing what the pushback is. Is it just, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pay more taxes? Or are there other detrimental factors to that?
I would say probably just an additional tax on top of what Albemarle already currently charges. So like, I don't own a home in Scottsville, I rent, so my dog would solely be based off of. Do you want to pay an additional 0.5%, 1% on top of what you're already paying to the county?
I really honestly would love it if we ever went forward with trying to figure out what exactly all the figures are associated with having real estate taxes to offset certain things that the county feels they provide to us through agreements or other, types of things. I'd love to know what that looks like.
I think Molly's hitting on a point. I think if I were to take like an overarching view of the different conversations I've heard has been. Something similar to Josh, it's like, hey, it would be an additional real estate tax on top of the county's real estate tax. And then I've heard shades of questions about priorities within our budget already. So should we be pulling from this department and prioritizing X in this department? Et
How
cetera.
many people have come forward about the budget and said, I just don't think you should be spending money on that? Has anybody, we've left it out there, has anybody come to you and said, you have, awesome.
That's how I've been since I've joined council. I
I
was
think that's
there,
great.
I was their biggest thorn in the side when we did budget, but
No, I think that's important.
We have, was it Matt that did the chart?
Yeah.
There's a chart floating around somewhere, if you charge 2%, 3%, 10%, what it would generate.
And then
Sure.
You'd have to charge somebody 10% to get like $60,000.
And then Melanie pointed out to me fall of last year. Or maybe spring, I can't remember. I did a update on some of the material that Thomas and Matt had done. Like precisely on this, presented it to council. I'll forward it, it's just a PowerPoint to kind of give a perspective in that, with the same line of what the mayor's saying. Where it's like you're trying to kind of put together figures and get kind of a perspective of it. I think another, to finish the point with Molly, it's like another conversation I've heard, usually from either like town council members, planning commissioners, or like volunteers that are relatively active. Those are the most people that really interact with me. Has been, well, what about what priorities? What portion of the county are they contributing to our region?
Right,
you
and
know.
I don't think they are.
Police services or flood control?
Right,
Or-
and things that I don't know about or work with all the time, so that's why I wanted to, but
And
I just am not exactly sure it pans out.
And I think Jim gave a kind of interesting perspective on that. It's like that cuts both ways.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you start asking them, then they'll go, well, we did this and this and this for you. It's
Oh,
kind of,
you think they discovered that they were not getting as much as they should?
everybody will show up with their own ammunition. I'll put it that way. Have you ever been in that back and forth with somebody where you did this and then I did that?
Yeah, and it may not be actionable, but at least we have an idea, and I really wasn't even thinking as far as going to the county about it, but just kind of for our benefit, what would we be left with if we said, you know what, we're good?
If, you know, if council had like requested it, I would probably update that report that I'm just gonna send out to you guys, because I did it last year,
Okay.
put some time into it, so.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
And then
Right.
probably work on some of those additional questions, because I've been also digging into that. For example, they support us with our flood maintenance. And then with our with our levy maintenance, they give a lump sum every year.
Right,
And then-
right, and that's very valuable.
But then, you know, you weigh that against our levy maintenance budget.
Well, one point I have to kind of cross on that is that. When you start saying, well, it would only give us $60,000. $60,000 could certainly get you someone who was a grant writer and who was experienced in getting grants for towns.
Mhm.
To even get more income into the town, so. I can't believe that we wouldn't wanna at least have that and then move forward with that. Are we the only locality that does not charge a real estate tax in Virginia?
There's 3 or 4 small towns, I can't remember, was
I
it
put it in my-
Louisa has one, but like Orange or Gordonsville doesn't have.
Yeah.
I get that, but not every place does, I was just kind of putting out a hyperbole maybe.
There's a good portion, not to over intellectualize it, but like then you start weighing against other services they provide. Like, for example, with you, I spoke about public utilities. Some of these that don't have real estate
Yeah.
tax are running a public utility.
Yeah.
And then, again, to keep it over intellectualized, but then you go, oh my God, I gotta run, or oh my goodness, I gotta run a public utility, which also costs expenses.
Right,
So,
well, and why aren't we in that situation with like Gordonsville, where they are buying from Orange, who's buying from the.
I'm not sure it's Orangeville, but when Matt made up that's the chart for us on what certain percentages we generate based on our property values. He also listed the towns that have. It's with that same information, the towns that do and the towns that don't.
Yeah,
Okay. I've got to run.
okay,
Thank you all for allowing me to speak.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mayor.
this was the conversation we had on the Zoom. It's hard to say implement, and it's not something we've talked about. It's also not something that's within our purview. It's more about the town and the budget.
Yeah.
But, you know, of course, we have something to say about it too, because we have a lot of ideas about what capital improvements and infrastructure we need.
yeah, so, yeah, for
yeah.
some context is like, there was kind of. There's a reason the language moved towards that way, that it was kind of a contentious topic, but worthwhile. Capturing in a bullet point, because I don't think there's any consensus on it.
yeah, and I think it's important to get down to the nitty gritty, like what would we do about getting the money? And then how would we, you know, like. Albemarle County takes care of getting the money from the people, you know, there are all kinds of things like that need to be ironed out, but. I'm just trying to shake loose something that would take us in a direction of getting more income. And be able to implement some of these ideas. I'm really all for a grant writer for the town to get, because it does, I mean, all of them are different and all of them are complicated.
And
It'd be nice.
it takes someone that has lots of experience and is very well
Yeah.
versed
Yeah.
to get.
So if we wanted to, you know, present something like that, I think that, yeah. Implementing a tax is never an easy thing.
We would probably need to have a little bit more of a budget than 60, but assuming that all of the home values have risen. You know, since that was last done, you know, I would have.
Yeah.
Assuming that. When I saw that, my initial, I had a knee-jerk reaction of like, nope, hate that, don't like it. But then, as they pulled it up, I love the change of, say, well, implement a town to consider. That has a massive
Yeah,
way of changing the context. To go, okay, implement is a very direct, here's a goal that we want to do.
yeah,
It's in the plan to consider these, you can review it and. Yeah, I
Decide
like
as a
that.
town something that makes the most sense.
Yeah, yeah, love that.
I think part of it should also be framed in regards to capital. I think as your town administrator, I think we've been correct in the last year hearing concerns about what revenue would look like for the town, and the most practical sense is for capital. It could be something as physical as a sidewalk, but also part of it is human capital. I mean, that's what you're talking about with staffing considerations. But I'll share the report because it does a cross section of different towns, and then does answer some dollar amounts. Of course, it's gonna change by the time I send it out. We're almost gonna get assessments again, but it gives you like perspective of what we're talking about, so we aren't kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. We talked to the county assessor, I guess it was, or one of the county assessors who came to my neighborhood. And I didn't know they made house calls and all that kind of stuff, because the assessments just go up. That's all I know. Right. But it was interesting talking about, the things that go into weighing all of that. And to not forget to ask questions. If you think it's exorbitant, find out why, I know that isn't pairing on this, but just thought I'd share that.
It definitely does.
But yeah, because it is a direct relation to the text. Anyway.
But I think one important thing that I kind of wanted to leave this meeting was to get your sense in general on the matrix. I think these are like the guiding tenets. And then I might recommend.
Good. You guys honed them down pretty nicely. Yeah. And I think it does tie it to some action items that can really be attained.
Right.
They can often be a little esoteric, and you really brought it down, so that's great. Great job, Lincoln. We helped, but it was like.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there could be some wordsmithing that still could be done. If even changing one word can change the whole meaning, like what Josh just mentioned, adding the word consider at the beginning. So, yeah, and I think back to your point, Molly, about the grant writer. One of these two bullet points in the bottom right-hand corner could be converted, instead of real estate tax, could be converted to grant writer, for instance. That grant writer, I think, was a really good recommendation that was made in that capital improvement program. Because a grant writer, you spend $10,000, you might get 60 or 70 or 100,000, like the GAP grant. So they can pay for themselves. Yeah, whatever your feedback and guidance is, that'd be really great tonight. I just also want to mention the top line. This is something that might not be in that earlier version of the handout. These are kind of like high level takeaways. Build out infrastructure, increase safety and quality of life in town, provide housing for a cross section of society. I think this is another way of saying an equitable society, very inclusive. Create community connections, increasing town vibrancy through events and tourism. One detail here would be maybe utilizing the ABC licenses for events, so on and so forth. The next item is leverage county service and finances for proportion of town population. I think that's kind of what we discussed. How do we advocate with Albemarle County or Fluvanna County to really get the full piece of the deserved pie both ways, right? Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Grateful for your comments.
We're grateful for you.
Yeah,
It's such an amazing experience to work with you.
Well, I really enjoy it. Yep, and we have a few steps left. We're almost done, I think.
I'm not saying goodbye, I'm just saying thank you.
I think,
Yeah.
I won't leave you yet.
I think
So
You can't with us.
Lincoln, I think it's a compliment to your ability to synthesize a lot of different views. and input that you've received, because this is a multitude of town planning commissioners, information, town residents, like everyone. You're seeing into that matrix.
And I think there's a little bit of something for everyone in this matrix. For instance, a lot of people contributed to these ideas. For instance, the park model RV, Eddie came up with that idea originally for town council. The maintenance of the existing parks and nature areas, that was Bill, for instance. And many people you can see throughout this matrix. So one strategy behind this is to people see their contributions and they want to have buy-in, I think. So hopefully we captured a level-handed view on this. Yeah, thanks so much.
Could I want to kind of ask planning commission, if we feel comfortable with this matrix, this might be something worthwhile sharing. I think it kind of captures holistically if to be your town administrator and trying to kind of pull everything together. If they're looking for the direction planning commission is going on this is kind of your
Centerpiece.
yeah, it's your 10 commandments. Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That I would second that appeal, you give them a little taste of steak to get us through. How you
And this is all backed up by the details that are, in the text, so I can see this being really helpful for them, and it's digestible. I mean, this
Yeah.
is something they're gonna be able to look at. I do have a couple of things I wanted to get into a little more, but yeah, I mean, I would be okay with that. I don't see any harm in giving them, as long as I still need to follow up with Lincoln to see exactly how much needs to be edited, because that's, a conversation that we're in the middle of. I don't see anything wrong with sharing the whole document as we're editing it, as long as they understand that it's in progress and there's parts that still have to be finished.
You think they're gonna understand that?
Well, if they don't, that's on them, but we're gonna hold a public hearing and we'll get the feedback when it's done. And
So you're gonna do this anyway, whether we want you to or not. Is that right? I'm asking.
I mean, Molly, I'm happy to have a conversation. I didn't see anything wrong with sharing it from the get-go. If you have concern, I'm happy to talk through it.
I already said.
Yes.
I have a concern.
We heard you, yes.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what others think? Is there any harm? Yeah, this is great. We can share this. I do still want to get back to this because I have some points specifically that I wanted to talk through. But since Molly would like to discuss it, do we want to share the entire document with them when Lincoln has it updated?
This is, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Dan, because mine's gonna be a.
Well, this might surprise you, but I agree with her concern in the sense that. The reason I agree with her concern is that. We would not want to give people in count. Let's go back to what the mayor said, because I think that was helpful. We would not want to give counselors the idea that they're going to change something before the document is completed. So I don't think it's wrong for them to see it. But if it gives them the perception that that they're gonna have the ability to change something now. That needs to be made sure that that's not happening, so it's like so some of it goes back to what authority. You wanna communicate to them, and so to say like, hey, if you wanna see this, that's great. We're working on it. Or. If you see this. I mean, you could almost, I would think you're gonna, as soon as somebody sees it, they're gonna start talking about it, they're gonna say, hey, I want this changed or that changed or whatever, I would think. Cause I think that's the activism.
This is not a personal thing. I'm serious when I say that if we're going to be giving a recommendation to town council about what we think is a great plan or a great start of a plan. I don't want that to be a foregone conclusion, whatever they're gonna make changes to, you know what I mean? Like, we have the opportunity to make some adjustments. You had said you wanted to get into a couple of adjustments to this. It's gonna happen, and we're still working on it. I just don't know why you're pushing so hard to do that. they can wait.
She's pushing only to send us other agents,
It
it's
was
coming
a
from
group
the
of people
council.
who ask for information, and I don't like to be somebody who like is trying to control information when it's public,
We
literally
already
public.
discussed that they've gotten all the emails, all of the updates, all of the stuff. What else is it that they want? They wanna get started editing.
Okay, so I'm not pushing anything, I'm opening up the floor for discussion.
Oh,
I mean,
okay,
let's talk about it, not be passive aggressive, let's openly talk about it.
okay. Well, Lisa, really, I think that during this meeting, you pushed a couple of times to say that you feel that it's not a big deal and you don't wanna do it any other way, so.
That's why I've never acted as a dictator, I like to discuss everything and hear the feedback. So far, we've heard your feedback, we've heard my feedback. Josh has said he has something to share, I'd like to hear from him as well. Shannon, and Shannon knows, her and I disagree on occasion and we don't have animosity over it, and we're able to disagree and still work together and be friends.
Yeah, well, maybe someday when you're not so condescending, we'll get along more.
I would love that. Okay, let's try to work together.
Oh, really?
I'll go ahead and, take the floor. Javier, this is going to be a complicated rules question.
Mhm.
So good luck.
Okay.
So, the typical procedure will be public hearing.
Yeah.
Move to council, council review, council approval, or sending back with, notes, yeah, edits. This can happen, and then we have 60 days to do a vision, edit, send back. Or we have the option to send it back in its entirety, how we don't have to make the edits. Is that a thing that can happen at infinitum? When does the chain break? Cause,
At some point, they could probably just decide to amend and then adopt,
okay,
cause and then planning is providing a recommendation. And they'll be doing an adoption, but essentially what you do is you have a public hearing as planning commission, you recommend out a comprehensive plan. They'll either approve and adopt, amend and adopt, or disapprove the plan. But they
Okay.
were. Usually it's probably an amendment. An adoption at some point, I think almost always. At least from what I see in other municipalities checking the news. However unlikely, which I don't think usually happens, disapproval, it gets sent back with some kind of written statement, and then you would resubmit it to town council, but I don't think without it. We're nowhere close to something that would be disapproved, like, we're working on the complaint, we are,
yeah.
it is in the back of a Shoney's, placemat with crayons.
The point on all that I kind of wanted to make is that regardless of what documents we put forward and we as a group, I have full confidence that we're gonna put something forward that is a darn near perfect plan for the town. Council at its discretion can and will change what it feels like with the vote of 3-42 or, it'll be adjusted at that level rather than sent back to us, cause. Yeah, so I just wanted to try to help put a little ease of minds, it's not really at ease, cause. But
A lot of this has been going on for a really long time and piling on top of each other as we go along. There's no reason for the planning commission to be defunct or not helpful in this process. Obviously, there's been a lot of research and things written up and all of that, so it can't be denied. I'm just wondering why we're functioning in this kind of fractured way. And obviously with Lisa and myself, I don't agree with her, she may not agree with me, I have no idea. So, that's troublesome, I'm sorry that we can't come together on that kind of stuff. But, I'm not interested in just being somebody who sits here and has no effect on the process. Or that you don't want my opinion about what's kind of moving forward. I think that I deserve that at the very least, so. That's kind of where I was, but.
Would it be? Should we, I mean, is it the kind of thing we would have a vote on to say something, or do you want just a recommendation, or?
He wants to hear your opinion.
I think we should just follow the process that was laid out for us tonight, that we finish the document. We have a public hearing, we get the document to town council, and then they respond. I mean, they have been involved in the process, they've come out to our events and our engagement. Workshops and at least one or two town councilors have come to every single workshop. And participated, and so their thoughts are already written up in this document. It's been documented and delivered to them. Every town council, like Lincoln's been communicating with them. This is recorded, they could definitely listen to this or come and attend. So I would prefer to just go with the documented process, which is why I was asking earlier, like what, taking everybody out of the equation, what is the actual process? And if the process is for us to do this and then have the hearing and then get them the document, I would prefer to just follow that process.
Well, the process that we talked about early on was to have joint meetings and to include them in, make sure that they know what's going on.
And we
So
have
is
to.
it sufficient? Yeah, well, we didn't have a joint meeting and that's okay, I'm not
Right,
advocating
well, and that's
for
why I
that.
brought that up, like, do we wanna do that? And if it's too close to election time now and.
I'm available.
Yeah,
So should we tell them then that the emails that they've been getting all these weeks, all these months with the pieces in there, the draft pieces in there should be sufficient until the whole document's
Why do
complete?
you have to explain to them any of that?
Nobody specifically asked us for something, I don't wanna just ignore that request or say no, I'd like to offer them some sort of, you know, if they say no to something, don't you wanna know why? And I feel like they're entitled
Oh,
to
they're
knowing-
never gonna tell us why. I mean, I could ask until I'm blue in the face, but they're not gonna tell me that. I'm offended by that quite often, and there's no one ever says boo to me.
Well, I'd like to do better then, if, you know, if we're gonna be representing ourselves.
What would you like to say?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get the consensus to see what we're doing here.
Okay.
I mean, I think we could just, I think we should just tell them we're almost ready to send them
Hang tight.
the document, yeah. And they have been updated and they've been kept in the loop and they've been included, more than kept in the loop, they've been actively included in this process. Because we didn't want to get to this point where we had presented them a document that they had no input in producing. And I don't think we've done that. And I mean, like, if people are concerned about like the growth part of our plan, like we're backing off by 100 people, like, you know, by 2050, the growth plan, because it's not realistic. And so, I mean, if that's the big concern, and that people think we're gonna be pushing these giant housing developments because somebody has a bee in their bonnet about the factory redevelopment plan, and then whatever we're gonna be doing, or they're going to be doing by right up in the different parts of town, then we can just assure them that we have no desire to see the town explode and lose its small town character, and the reason we all moved here. So calm down, let us do the process, and you'll get the document when we're ready to send it.
And it really truly is not very long from now,
Great,
so.
and
That's not a
think
lot to ask.
I'm a little concerned about sending them a document that we may change. And then if they're already responding to it, we've already like been changing it,
Yeah.
it just seems very messy. Like they can wait a few months. I don't think they've been kept in the dark, and I think it's disingenuous for anybody, and I'm not saying that they're saying this, but I think it would be disingenuous for anybody to say, we have no idea what's going on, we haven't been included. What are you guys doing? Like, I just think That's just a bunch of falsehoods being promoted.
Come to your public meetings that we're here from 7 to 9.
It's so
and
lonely.
We never have anyone here. Come to ARP as well. Alright.
I know, I've been planning to do that.
I love hearing, we haven't been involved in the process,
Right.
and then. You have empty chairs every night, that's so frustrating. But-
Yeah, so I don't feel like, sorry, I just don't feel the need to like feel pressure to
There's food, they'll be there.
do anything that we weren't planning on already prior to this.
Okay.
I don't have feelings strong one way or the other, I can see how it can be used as ammunition to comb through every detail. But then also, I can also say, well, they're gonna review it anyways, and they have access to it, so they can be reading it already and.
The older documents that haven't been finalized.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling either way. Sorry.
The one thing I would say in closing would be. I conveyed. What's been shared over there, town council, I was very encouraged by what the mayor said.
Yeah,
because
I
the
like.
mayor, to me. Made me feel a little ease, because they're, the conversations between Mr. Bowling, the council, and others related to this. Have left a little ambiguity in my own mind, I just know that there's been different thoughts in terms of where to go. I think it's wisest of us to have a consensus opinion, and so. Having a consensus opinion as the planning commission meeting, it seems. Everybody mostly feels comfortable with saying. Not mostly, everybody feels comfortable with saying, let the process continue. It's more just a question of what we say back to the council, so in other words, the process should continue. It shouldn't be shortcutted. I think that's clear what everybody's saying. And as the message goes back there. I'm not exactly sure how I would want to say it, but it's not going to be liked whatever I say over there.
Why not put together?
Why don't we just say we're gonna follow the process, we're wrapping up this part of.
But would you want us to go to town council and tell them?
I think that's not a bad idea to actually, it's not a confrontation or anything, it's more just.
I don't feel
People.
confrontational
No, I'm
about
not
that.
saying with you, I just
Yeah.
mean, it's more, this goes back to the intention that. Has been in the process before coming and to kind of clear up any
We can understand your
misunderstanding.
being anxious about wanting to see what's happening and get it done. We can understand that.
It's a good faith gesture.
I do think that sending them this piece with, what we're gonna get into of the amendments would be a good idea, so. They understand that we are working on some, it's not just, we got.
That was a great suggestion.
Yeah.
It's an
And
executive
I'd
memo.
also like to hear from Lincoln about what percent of the way you think we're through. So we have the Boys and Girls Club engagement to review, we have the weaving to finalize, what else still needs to be completed?
Yeah, so the Boys and Girls Club summary should be printed off for you on the dais there, okay? So those are about 3/4 of a page a piece with photographs I just screenshotted from our PowerPoint a while back. Then there needs to be a summary written of the survey that was done. Javier has offered to write that summary. So that summary is quite important. For instance, when we're talking about the growth question that was in the survey, we found out that a vast majority of town residents actually support growth. It's just a question of how much, a lot or a little. And I think it was a great point that was just mentioned a few minutes ago. Actually, this proposed comp plan is pulling back from the previous growth item goal of 1,000 and back to a 900 or less, right? So I think that's really important to highlight. I hadn't been thinking about that. That's an excellent point to make, that we're actually reducing the growth projection.
And it's,
Um,
Lincoln, it's very in line with by right growth at this point.
Right.
Think about 2.5 people per household. You're already reaching 600, 75 over 725, 600. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I think that should be explained in the document. It's not really explained right now. I think that, and that takes a little bit of time. So, you know what I mean? So, the growth projection needs to have a little bit more writing. Javier, like I mentioned, kindly said he would write the summary of the survey. And then, in my opinion, after this matrix that we discussed, there needs to be half-page summaries written for each intersection. So if you look at the screen right now, there needs to be a half-page summary written about this item about the town demonstrating its value to the rural region and about consider implementing a town tax if that's the decision, or if it's hiring someone to write grants, whatever that decision is, there needs to be a half page that explains that. So everything that I or others verbally explained today about this matrix, that needs to somehow be crystallized in half a page, if you think that's the right step. Because we'd be losing a lot of detail if we didn't do that. We'd be like taking it halfway, but not really going to the finish line, in my opinion. Yeah. So this is 6 pages of writing that needs to be done, but it's hard writing. It takes a lot of thinking. So that's the matrix summary.
Can I ask really quick, is it already added to the matrix on the screen, but the grant writer in here, even if
That's not on there right now, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's important. I do agree, but it didn't quite, when I was coming up with this, it didn't quite rise to the occasion. But I was prioritizing town tax. Maybe that's not a priority for the planning commission as a whole. So maybe we replace town tax with grant writer. It's of course up to you. Yeah. I think this is a fruitful discussion. Yeah.
we should do both personally. Consider a town tax and also get a grant writer.
I do, we're already behind with
Yeah.
all of these ideas that we're wanting to do. I think that people, when they come to the town and look at it for commercial reasons or for residential reasons, they're gonna wanna look for certain things to be in line. And I think anything that we could have coming in as far as revenue is a good idea. I mean, and I am a real estate tax paying citizen. So it would affect me as well, but I know how much we could really do if we had extra money to do these things. And so if we got the money to pay the grant writer, you know, whatever we have to do,
Yeah.
then we have to get the ball rolling.
Agreed.
Okay, so for instance, I just reworded that bottom right-hand corner bullet point. Let me just read it to you for discussion. Maybe I write, consider implementing additional revenue streams, comma, such as a town real estate tax or hiring a grant writer, comma, to meet the needs of the growing community.
Could I also ask to, do all of these items that we're putting on this table, does this all assume that we would, if town council agrees to this plan, that we as a planning commission would be rewriting our zoning to better align with these, or does that need to also be spelled out somewhere on this chart?
Well, any ordinance change we need to make separately.
Right, I'm not talking about specific ordinance changes at this point, but like, do we need to have somewhere on this chart? Align town zoning with these goals? Or should it be stated as like an overall statement somewhere in this comp plan document that if agreed upon, that is what the planning commission's goal would then be, is to realign, if we need to, our zoning to meet these goals in the best way that we
We
can.
should definitely
Yeah,
mention, yeah, so realigning the zoning, cause. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the last major zoning updates that we did was for the historic downtown district. So basically, one of the projects we led was getting the downtown area zoning fixed to where if a home was to be burned down or flooded, collapse, whatever, before it could not be rebuilt that same way. Now with the current zoning, you would be able to rebuild your home in the same way or fashion due to setbacks and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, absolutely should be there somewhere to reference.
we had planned to tackle that after the comp plan was complete.
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to know if it needed to be
If it needed-
explicitly stated
yeah.
somewhere in this document that that is planned. As-
No.
Because then I was looking, part of the homework that we had was to look at how to revitalize our
I know.
town and through some of the zoning. Ordinance updates, like, some places got rid of the mandatory parking space a lot, like allotments for new businesses, because, if the business was within so many feet or blocks of public transportation, for instance. Which doesn't apply to us, because we don't have public transportation in town per se, but, just things like that, because it was a big onus on these new businesses that wanted to come in, but they didn't have anywhere to put parking. So that was a huge boon to these businesses, and it really encouraged business growth. So anyway, just.
Yeah, obviously, we're gonna have different concerns now. And with the creation of this document, I think that sounds, I don't know if it needs to be, one way or the other, but I think it would be helpful.
I mean, nothing, I'm not talking about anything like specific,
Yeah.
but just to say,
Like, a footnote.
Yeah.
Our plan is to
Yeah.
update our current zoning.
Yeah,
At the
Yeah.
very least in the introduction, just state that as the process.
right,
We're first doing a comprehensive plan, then we'll move on.
yeah,
yeah,
I think you'll probably find that in most introductions to comp plan, just
Okay.
saying, hey. This is what's coming ahead,
yeah,
cause we have about 2-3 pages in the old one that is just kind of laying out what we're doing here. Just, I haven't answered the whole question, but that's one part I can
okay,
I can answer.
alright, and we can move on now, I just wanted to throw that out.
I had a concern about goal 2, principle 1. Safeguard majority of rural areas zoning for agricultural uses. I don't know how I feel about the strong language. And does it just have to be agricultural, or could it be open space? It's not, it's not a big concern for me, but it's just something that kind of caught my eye. And then goal 3, principle 1, create a pedestrian connection. Whereas down below, it talks about trying to plan for and try to develop creative solutions. I don't remember exactly where it was, so I feel like maybe that needs to be softened a little. Maybe we decide creating a pedestrian connection, well, at least up 20, we know that it's gonna be really hard to do.
Yeah, first off, I've just highlighted everywhere that the word ordinance is used. So right now there's 5 different places. Yeah. Just to give a flavor, but I totally agree that at the beginning of the comp plan, somewhere there can be a mention that the planning commission should make steps to update all of the ordinances according to the comp plan. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
That fits with Virginia code,
okay,
that you'll recommend implementation, so, you know, a new zoning map. Or a new official town map, a future use map, capital improvement plan, which we talked before was one of the things we said was prudent for planning commission to work on and kind of get the town thinking forward thinking,
Okay,
or planning ahead would be the easy way of saying it. And then, yeah, just zoning rewrite,
great.
ordinance rewrite, as I said.
And now what I'm doing, I'm going through the existing comp plan to answer Lisa's question about the rural areas, for instance, and the thinking behind that. I think the easiest thing is to refer to the land use zoning map. Let me find it. So these maps are a whole nother ball of wax that is to be done because the GIS files that were used in previous renditions of the comp plan have been lost, or Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission can't find them. So this is a pretty big undertaking. So I'll just share my screen. So as you might recall from the 2018 comp plan, these land use plans are really pixelated, difficult to read, and they're only gonna, get worse as we keep on reusing them. So I think they need to be recreated, and that takes a little bit of time. So this is what was in the comp plan 2018 future land use plan. Okay, so this is what 2018 they envisioned for the land use of the town. So let me highlight, one thing I think we already talked about was that the legend colors. See, this yellow doesn't even match up here. It's not very clear. You know what I mean? See, this dark purple is nowhere in the legend, right? We know that that's the tire factory and part of it's Bird Street now, right? But these things just have to be updated. And a zoning map is like this is a legal document, so it's actually quite important. So anyway, back to Lisa's question. I think it's a really great question. I'm just going to pull up a pink color. So this was the idea of this is all that rural area, okay? This is where you can have your horse farm and have big piece of land and one small house on it, okay? As an example, okay? What we know right now is a vast majority of this area is wooded, right? And a lot of these lots in the northeast part of town, for instance, these lots here aren't even developed, they're vacant, right? And there was, subdivision happened, and even most of these streets that are indicated weren't even built, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, right? So the double-edged sword that I mentioned is that a developer could come in and develop by right tomorrow sizable pieces of land right here, super low density. So back a few months ago when we had our zoning discussion, the rewrites discussion that are at the back of the comp plan that Lawless proposed last time. I think the conclusion was why not upzone this area right here a little bit more so a developer couldn't go in and just develop 1 or 2 acre lots and the town loses a lot of potential density. So my recommendation would be this purple area that I'm circling right now be recommended for a higher density. So what's the higher density than rural areas? It's village residential. So let me just clear all these scribbles off. So I think the conclusion I would recommend is something like this yellow that I'm highlighting here be upzoned slightly to village residential. So village residential, yeah.
Lincoln, can you repeat that?
Okay, so, sure, got to. Let me take a step back. So the question here is, what should be the future land use plan of the town? What is the town aiming for? Does it want low density in all of these rural areas, or does it want the potential for a higher density? A town that develops too low density, it spends a lot of money on infrastructure, roads, sewers, sidewalks, or it can't even provide sidewalks because it doesn't have the money to connect houses that are too far spread apart. So there's that right amount of density. In my opinion, having this area zoned, the area that I'm highlighting here as rural areas, it's probably too low density for the future. The minimum should probably be village residential. And this right now is most of it's a green field or trees. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation, changing this from rural areas to village residential.
So maybe we could say something like convert some portions of the property to village residential to increase housing choices and protect open green spaces, something like that. And then
Yeah.
in the area where we talk about these things in a little bit more detail, then we can get into more of the, that area is currently zoned for rural, for lower density housing or agricultural use, but like it's completely, I don't want anybody to walk away with the impression without having looked at the map that like we're taking away farmland, because that is really unpopular. I don't even want anybody to have that impression.
That might be to Lincoln's
Um,
point of the half page.
Yes,
Then you
that's what I'm
delve
saying,
out.
like you explain in there, but like maybe just get rid of the whole like rural areas language in this snippet, just so you can't walk away with the soundbite going, oh my gosh, do you know what they're trying to do in Scottsville?
They might say it anyway, but.
Well, but if you
Yeah.
just get rid of the rural areas and just say convert portions of, convert a small portion of currently zoned areas to village residential to increase the housing options and preserve green space, like put a positive spin on it, so people walk away with a positive soundbite, because that is really what we're trying to do. Like, we're not trying to take away farms, because there's nothing, I mean, it's not farm
No.
land right now anyway, but this kind of makes it sound like it, like.
You're trying to address it at a realistically expected future
Yes.
outcome. Yeah.
Right, so maybe
Well,
that would.
but I think it's good to say safeguard majority or safeguard, because that gives people the idea that we are trying to protect, the open space. But I like the idea of adding in open space.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we could probably, like, we could explain exactly what this means in the.
Yeah.
the-
In the half.
In the, but just for like a little sound bite, like. I mean, it's zoned rural area, but it's woods,
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and
it's not farmland, it's not agricultural farm, it's
Yeah.
not being used for agricultural use, and I don't think it.
Is not being used, but it's zoned for it.
Right.
Zoned.
Right, but this kind of just makes it sound like, wait a minute, like, are you trying to take some of it, I mean, safeguarding a portion of it, which means a portion of it you're not safeguarding, like.
Yeah.
It just, I'm just trying to manage the,
Yeah, the backslash.
right, I mean, because you yourself were like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
so maybe that would soften.
Lincoln, do you want to share the language you have up there?
Yeah, please.
Now, so I'm just highlighting this in orange. So convert a small proportion of rural area zoning to allow for more housing choices. That's basically what you were suggesting, Shannon?
Yeah, to allow for more housing choices and for the preservation of like our park. I mean, cause it's our park, right? Is that part of Van Cleve that we're talking about?
The
Well-
north, it's right,
It's next to Van Cleef.
Okay,
it's the portion got subdivided.
right, but that's the portion we all
That has the-
tromp through anyway, right?
It's the park,
Okay,
yeah, in that sense, yes.
great. Like, oops, my,
So how about we say, provide more housing choices and preservation of natural areas?
yes, I like that. What do you guys?
Is this generally okay with
I feel like
everyone?
get more pushback on convert a small proportion to allow for more housing choices than you will get when you're saying safeguard. But I'm fine with
Well,
that.
what strong language were you opposed to? I thought it was the safeguard.
The word majority and just having agriculture where I wanted to have open spaces and, because I don't think they're going to use that land for agriculture, I think that.
Well, yeah,
land is
right,
gonna be-
that's-
Right, I think
Yeah.
it's more prime for open space, community space.
Agriculture also just includes larger parcels, homes,
Right.
differences in setbacks, and it's kind of a fallback zoning sometimes when you get rural.
Yeah.
But then it depends, I think Buckingham allows a lot more industrial. While ours really, it goes kind of the other way, it's much more of an urban approach.
I think her point is very good though, that it just gives a perceived notion of, when I think of agriculture, I think of cows, chickens, goats. I think of a farm, I don't think
It's
of.
not really Scottsville.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to look at the language and see what planning commission feels comfortable, so I do think this is important.
I think open spaces is the appropriate term.
Yeah, yeah, the agricultural, I thought should go, because it's not.
Do we have any actual data on how many technical farms we have within town limits?
Shouldn't be too difficult. A research project.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, we have enough research projects, are we trying to figure out how many vacant spaces we have up and down here?
So on the screen, I just added another potential at the very beginning. Safeguard prime agricultural areas or prime open spaces and convert a small proportion of rural areas zoning to allow blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I think that, I'm okay with, what do you guys think?
Because thinking back to the rural areas text in the ordinance, how it is written now, it does talk a lot about agricultural area, agricultural uses.
No, Dave, you got
Of course, that could be changed.
I think if we backtrack off of it and said exactly what we were trying to do, that
Yeah.
might be easier to work from,
Right,
you know what I mean? Cause I don't know. I mean, it probably says exactly what you want it to say, I'm just saying that if we want to make any changes to it, it should probably. Cause we're switching out one type of zoning for another in order to encourage growth, which is one of our goals. And so we don't need to hide from that or
right.
placate anybody about that. I just think we're getting wordy because we're worried about the reaction
Yeah,
of
we
people
will,
reading
yeah, we will let know we're not gonna go overboard. We
it. No,
want to-
I get that, yeah.
I like it now. You guys, are you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good with it.
Were there other-
Okay, so I'll just change this to orange, meaning it's a revision from the previous version. If that's okay. And then This other area here, in the bottom right-hand corner, we are also discussing that if we want to revisit this, consider implementing additional revenue streams, comma, such as a town real estate tax or hiring a grant writer, comma, to meet the needs of the growing community. Is-
Very. It doesn't stick us with anything guaranteed and. Yeah, I don't have that.
Now, my point about this was that I feel like we could be reallocating budget lines. And not trying to necessarily seek additional revenue, especially if it means a tax. But, I don't know how to balance all those words and still make it manageable.
Prioritizing our current budget while considering other
Or prioritizing the current budget.
reprioritizing, yeah. Reprioritizing the current budget
Mm-hmm.
while implementing additional.
While considering. Yeah.
Yeah, while
Additional-
considering additional revenue streams.
Such as blah 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 blah.
And can we change the or to and?
I don't think we would have to.
Thank you, Lee.
We do have a couple of ideas, but not necessarily one.
Right. To leave it. Say beer festival.
Yeah, a destination yearly thing.
Right, like top of the hop,
Even when Oktoberfest.
right?
And then, the other point that I wanted to make is, when we were talking on the Zoom call and we still had so many ideas that we wanted to try to fit into this weave, and then you made the suggestion of putting the extra lines up at the top. I feel like that needs to be, and what I mean, yeah, those. So I feel like that needs to be worked in somehow. It feels kind of disjointed when it's up there like that for me. And maybe.
Yeah, I understand your point of view. They could be integrated into the items below, yeah.
It could either be integrated in the items below, or that could be like the crux of the half paragraph. Or included in the half paragraph somehow.
So not have the grid anymore?
No, have the grid, just those sentences that he added up there that aren't here, those I feel a little kind of out there a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they're too small for me to see right now.
I mean,
Okay, sorry, zooming in. So for instance, leverage county service and finances for a proportion of town population. Yeah,
I mean, I hear your point, I understand what you're saying, I just think it's kind of nice because these are abstract concepts until you come down into it. And letting people know the direction that that's going in. Increasing
Yeah.
town vibrancy through events and tourism, yes.
so maybe instead of a bullet point, it could be like a little subheading under the main heading. Make it
Yeah.
look like more of a
Yeah,
thing instead of just part of the grid, but not really part of the
yeah,
grid.
because the bullet points make you feel like it's almost like things inside the grid.
Yes.
And then those 4 items in the write-up would be included, because the way they're structured in the matrix, they're under your goals. So each of those syntheses would be your goals, your principles intersecting with this third element. That's your synthesis.
Okay. And then the other comment that I would make is, I was having a hard time reading this on paper.
Mhm.
Because the black kind of blends in a little bit with the blue, so, and then that made me think if it gets printed out in black and white, it's gonna be even harder, so perhaps we should be using a white font for the grid.
Yeah.
Well, and this is.
yeah, that's a good point about the readability.
It's too dark. It didn't print out very.
But
well.
first question I guess I have is about the size of the whole page. I was thinking that this would be a letter piece of paper, like you'd have in a traditional printed off document. Do you think the text would be too small?
I think the text size is fine, I just
Just the color.
It's-
More about the colors.
it just needs
about
a
the-
higher contrast.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a really good consideration.
I think
Um,
the larger font, black bold is fine, you can see that. But within the grid itself, especially in the dark blue areas where the grids overlap,
Yeah, that.
you can't read it.
okay, I understand. Um,
Right.
let me work on the readability then, the colors.
That's why
Okay. So you think changing it to white would be better?
Yes, yeah, I think that will fix it.
It's more idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But most importantly, do you guys feel comfortable with the substance of the matrix? Because I think that's something we should leave tonight with. Feel like we've made some good forward momentum.
Yeah.
I like it.
Why, can I ask,
Yeah.
in principle 2, goal 2, the first bullet is italicized. And I don't
Yeah, that's a
know
good question.
if that was just a
Is-
mistake.
It may not be up on the computer though.
I think that was one of the
Oh,
ones,
Got it,
that
okay,
was an updated one.
never mind.
I think previously, when we had that discussion, that was kind of one I had a big question mark on. That's why I italicized it. But once we talked about it, then I think we came up with something else.
Thank you.
So, so, um, so what about the big black, should,
I think
is
that's
this,
legible,
it's okay?
Good.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll do it for now like this, and if there's more issues, we can change later again. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So further to the point about what these are, I agree that they shouldn't be bullets. They're more about a subheading. I think that's an excellent term someone mentioned. Because there has to be a place in the comp plan that explains how did we come up with these goals and these principles. And the explanation is that it came from the last comp plan and just analysis of all the different words that were used. So yeah, I agree that these areas that are italicized now at the top will just be in that explanation for each goal. Yeah, and flushing things out. Yeah. Sorry, my brain is turning to mush. It's a little bit late for me, but
Let's wrap it up.
Hmm.
Let's wrap this
I
up.
understand that.
Yeah. All right, so what are the next steps?
okay. So just to recap of on Lisa's question, have to write the summary for the survey. Thank you, Javier, for that. Have to write the summary of this matrix. That's still a chunk of thinking. I think what I might do is listen to our discussion on the recording from tonight, because there's a lot of those ideas that just need to be put on paper, I think. Creating the maps and going through the document and just double checking that everything in there is updated. Yeah. And then taking Molly's excellent photographs and integrating those into the Word document. I will give you one example that I was looking at earlier tonight. I'm just going to share my screen. So for instance, a lot of the photographs that are in the document are super pixelated, and really aren't the best quality that really showcases the town vibrancy, for instance. So I'm sure Molly might have um, a clearer photo than this. Uh, I mean, this one is, I think, of scan. I assume in Victory Hall, but I just don't really know. It'd be nice if we're able to write a little caption underneath the photo and say, this is from Scan, a production in 2018 of
It looks
some.
like Wizarding Fest, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is.
Did it? Yeah. So,
And-
so, yeah, Halloween thing.
Um,
I just, right.
so for instance, we know this is somewhere at the Canal Basin Square, right? So that one's pretty okay. This one's next to the History Museum, right? Uh,
I think we
so
should
it's just,
do
sorry.
South Basin Square, the plexiglass, that looks, it's really nice looking now.
Oh, you mean that, yeah, I've got
Yeah,
some
it's
pictures
big,
of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's really nice.
and I love that it has the mural back behind it.
Yeah.
It makes a really interesting photograph.
Okay, so that's photographs that need to be updated.
I saw that.
They have a cover for it and it has the seal on the top of
Yeah.
it, so. Go back and see what's
Professional.
I live right next
I
to
know.
it, and I'm never home to see it.
Okay, so just to recap, there's the youth engagement summaries on your dais right now. If you have any comments on that write-up, I know Dan, you were there for everything of those. So I just went through my notes and captured all the key points. And really, it was a really, upbeat events, and I think we all had a lot of fun. So I tried to capture it in that spirit. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go back to the schedule. I think that's, of course, important. So let me share my screen. I put on the calendar here. Okay, so this is the October schedule. Today we're on the 7th. Okay. It seems like from what I'm hearing, we're not going to run and kick out a document urgently. That's half-baked. So the town council work session or town council meeting is, they're not as critical on this calendar as I put that. So the next planning commission meeting will be November 4th, okay, Monday, I believe. So what I think would be ideal would be having, I'll have even before that, let me put on the schedule here that we will, I will share around the latest document with all the updated text. So we can have that together as a planning commission. I think I can do that by, because I'm doing traveling now and going to Virginia Beach in a few days for another conference to present at. So I think I can share that with you on the 17th. Okay. If that's acceptable for you. Then Javier, you'll work on the summary of the survey, and I will work on these matrix summaries. So I suggest on this planning commission date, I'll just put it right here on the side. Give you half of the matrix summaries. Yeah, I think that would be good. Because that is still a lot of thinking. Yeah. That's okay. Then I will be here in Scottsville for 2nd of December. Review second half of matrix summaries, okay? Javier, is it okay if I put for our next planning commission meeting, we also review the survey summary?
Yeah, then I can help out with the matrix. And I'll work with you about the map too.
Yeah, okay. So I think we need to talk about GIS map. Okay, so I think it'd be a good goal to have a draft of the GIS map, first cut here. The James Exchange recently emailed me that they're still working on cataloging all the existing land uses of the town from the tax records and so on and so forth. So that's still another component of that. If you remember that discussion, yeah. Okay, so I think in later November, I would like to sit with Molly, if that's okay, and go through all the photographs to make sure I have the good ones in the right place. Would that be good somewhere here?
Yeah. That would be great. I don't have anything on my calendar for that, so I'll just be open to what you need.
Okay.
The 14th.
Well, I'm just, yeah, maybe I just kind of put it as spreading across the later portions of this week.
All right, well.
I'll get in touch with you.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so I think the main takeaway is here we try to finalize this matrix explanation by the 2nd of December. Yeah. So vast majority of the whole document will be put together on December 2nd. There just might be a few wordsmithing pieces that go on. I think that'd be my takeaway, if that's okay. Okay, I will push save on this PowerPoint and I will email you the PDF shortly after this or tomorrow morning. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Well, thank you so much. Really enjoy it. And this was a good discussion. I really like this prioritization of the matrix. That's good. And the wordsmithing. It's all really important. Yeah.
Y'all did a good job on that.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna head off. You guys are gonna continue to discuss the last agenda item, or do you want me to stay listening in? The homework portion?
I think we're good. Thank you, Lincoln.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Now are the commissioners okay with me sharing the weaving approach this year after Lincoln finishes it with town council?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yep. That shows them that we're willing to communicate.
And working in very detail.
Want me to jump in on our 6P? Or are we at 6?
Oh, I think I'd like to make a motion that we table that discussion.
Yes.
And adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Hello, thank you commissioners for your feedback, your input, your hard work, awesome.
No, I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to be the one that was like, oh, let's have this
They
meeting.
made.
Thanks.
Got it.
I really was.
No, no, you don't be sorry, I have the, so.
When you said, does anybody want me to jump in, I said, no. Please stop talking. I really appreciate your work, but let's talk about this later.
Yeah, when it's not, you know,
Yeah,
mine's 30.
yeah.
I got 37, 20.